and let the adventure begin. Limiting beliefs kind of opens up a playing field for a number of possibilities, enough interesting possibilities with substance. So I'm also learning a little bit as well. So I thank you. I thank you for the comfort of being able to experience and experiment and teach you what I'm really looking forward to sharing. Today, and I'm going to get started today, we're going to do limiting beliefs. Those limiting beliefs, they're very sticky. They just keep hanging around, and every time we think we've got them, they just kind of pop their heads up again. And the thing about them is that our ego is kind of invested in many of our limiting beliefs, and it's the job description of ego to preserve status quo. I'll go over a little bit of what we did last time because it's a nice place to start reviewing limiting beliefs. It cleared from above to below, right to left, back to front, within to without. So as the last time, just settle in, take a moment, close your eyes if you wish. Know that you are surrounded by love from the front. Feel that love surrounding you from your front. Know that you are surrounded by love from your back. Feel that love surrounding you from your back. Know you are surrounded by love from your right, and feel that love surrounding you from your right. Know too that you are surrounded with love from your left, and feel that love surrounding you from your left. You are also surrounded by love from above. Feel that love now surrounding you from above. You are surrounded as well with love from below. Be filled with that love from within, from above, from below, from right, from left, from within, knowing that you are surrounded by love from all sides. Enjoy that feeling of love surrounding you on all sides, knowing you are surrounded by love from Creator and creation. And now feel completely and unconditionally loved by Creator and creation. And one of my little ditties that I made up for myself some number, probably almost 10 years ago, when I was working on another go-round with my limiting beliefs. It is a little ditty. It goes like this. I love myself. Myself loves me. I can be anyone I will to be. So whatever you will, it's possible. But we're going to start looking at the things that trip us up on the stuff that we will. Let's start with a quote, Henry Ford, because it kind of applies here. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you're right. And I used to say that to my new clients because I used to work in the IT world for almost 30 years. And all my peers, my friends went like, are you a nutball? What's going on? And I was asking them all over for free sessions because I needed to get my practice hours up. And I say, well, if you think it's not possible, please don't waste either of our time. Don't come. But if you'll give me like even a teeny weeny little bit of a maybe, it's all possible. But it's about what we decide for ourselves. But that decision making is kind of the tricky bit, because we have lots of things coming into play, forces that act upon us, people, conditions, culture, and all that stuff. molds our limitations in ways that we're going to, hopefully I'm going to help you discover and see in new kinds of ways. So we'll begin with a cute little exercise that will help you experience limitation. And we'll move on to recognizing limiting beliefs and learning a little bit about their origins. I will give you some very specific examples of some of my most popular limiting beliefs. And yes, I found them not just in my clients, but in myself as well. We'll giggle about that, but then we'll fix it. And I'll share some of the ways that you can move past these limiting beliefs into unlimitation, because that's kind of how we expand. So this simple little exercise goes like this. I'd like you to just locate something that's within easy reach of you. I don't care if it's, a jug of water, if it's your cell phone. I've got a cell phone here, a piece of paper, a pencil, just something that's nearby that's easy for you to reach out and touch. And I have a question for you. Actually, it's not a question, it's a directive. It is your instruction. How can you tell I've been watching Star Trek reruns? At any rate, it's not the prime directive. This is your instruction. Please try and pick up that object that you've just identified. I do see some waves going on here. I see different objects. Isn't that interesting? I only asked you to try to pick it up. But it's all right, because I did the very same thing. The first thing we go out there and we pick it up. But I asked you to try. So if you were trying, you'd kind of be sitting there doing nothing, because trying has no result. It's just, what's a try? It's a thought. So the belief that started in our thoughts, it sort of wants to come out of our mouths because nothing happened. You all showed me your thing and you all smiled when I said, yeah, but I asked you to try to pick it up. Our beliefs get kind of confused around that same way by what we hear, by what acts upon us. And you didn't pay attention, because we don't. We work on autopilot. We're so used to certain things meaning or requiring other things that we just barrel right ahead, even when that's not what's being asked of us. And that speaks an awful lot to where limiting beliefs come from and the thoughts that we have surrounding them. Our words are preceded by thoughts, and they're followed up with actions. It is true that we successfully manifest everything which happens to us by what we think, by what we say, and by what we do. Now, that's a pretty grand thought, and it's a very easy statement for any of us to have a reaction to. The first reaction would be, well, what the heck? Why would I create any of this nonsense or chaos if I was in charge of it? What's going on? Well, apparently you're not thinking it through well enough, otherwise you wouldn't be manifesting it. But if you thought it through, on all counts, you might still find that there's a number of things about your thoughts and your words and your actions that you believe. Now, some of them, if you broke them down and I spelled them all out, we'd look at them and we'd laugh, because I laughed when I looked at many of mine. It's like, yeah, that figures. Okay, well, that sounds like my mom, or that sounds like my friend, or that sounds like somebody I saw on TV. Yep, we get information from there. We get information from everyone and everything that surrounds us and how we interpret that. So our interpretation when we're in the womb, and yes, we hear everything that goes on around us when we're in the womb, how we interpret things when we're very little, and by that I'll mean less than the age of 5, How we react to things in our teens, well, there's the expansion phase of life. We're pretty much doing just about anything that everybody doesn't want us to do because we're doing a boundary testing different from the one we did when we were 3 years old. And then we settle into phases of our life. But those thoughts, those words, and those actions have all played and continue to play a role. A lot of people have spoken to this. Everybody from Buddha on forward that had an opinion, they all seem to have written about it. And there are some people that, if you go searching on it, their names will come up. But I will speak first to, it wasn't exactly what Buddha wrote. Buddha said, well, I've written like 2,000 things, and basically it's the same one thing 2,000 different ways. And if you hear it often enough and differently enough, maybe it'll go thunk and you'll get it. But this one, which was interpreted by somebody who's back in the day, and this is a more ancient text way of saying it, it says, the thought manifests as the word. The word manifests as the deed. The deed develops into habit. We practice what we think, we practice what we say. And that habit hardens into character. It becomes who we are. So watch the thought and its way with care, and let it spring from love, born out of concern for all things. Well, it does sound kind of Buddha-like, but the parts of it, the thought manifests as the word, the word manifests as the deed is practiced and becomes habit, the habit hardens into character. If I was to ask any of you, I have to change how I was going to say that. If I said, I am, who am I after I say I am? Well, I was given the name of Emily. I like to be called Em, but that is not who I am. The color of my hair, my makeup, my reading glasses, the clothing I wear, none of those things are who I am. My characteristics, those things that you can't see or touch or sometimes feel, they're more who I am. But I have to be careful because there's that little voice. It's always yappeting in my head. It's rarely quiet. And that little voice, that's not who I am. That little voice is my ego. And my ego is generally very busy passing a judgment on everything that goes on. And it's not based on any particular knowledge or data or experience. It's just yappity, yappity, yappity. If I asked you to name things that were red, I mean, we'd be busy until this time next week because your ego is limitlessly creative. But it's also limitlessly judgy. And therein lies the rub. Judgment brings with it limitation. Now, I asked you to try to lift that item that you identified. Well, my favorite character is Yoda. He goes, yeah, there is no try, there's only do. And there's a certain merit to that. Samuel Beckett, who had a life of challenges until he finally succeeded, he wrote, and I giggled the first time I saw this written on an Irish pub's wall. It said, have you ever tried? Ever failed? No matter. Try again. Fail again. Fail better. Well, okay, that's kind of what many of us have been doing. We keep trying until we fail better enough to succeed. It's how we learn to walk. But what does that have to do with limiting beliefs? Anything that we speak, what comes out of our mouths, is either limiting or empowering. How can you tell the difference? Well, everything which is spoken in a positive way comes without limitation. It's empowering. everything, I mean everything which is spoken in a negative way, everything from a full-on hard, harsh negative to a soft, gentle, well, I'm kind of hiding out, but I'm still negative. Words like no, not never always mean negative. They come with limitation. And so we've all heard that we've got to think positive, and it's really important. But a lot of people don't spend time telling us why. And there are a lot of very good reasons for the why. I'm going to speak only to the one that has to do with how speaking positive frees us from limitation and empowers us or unlimits us, and how saying anything negative immediately limits us. You've ever said, I don't like to do that. I don't wanna. I can't do it. I'll never be able to. Okay, well, who said? How do you know? And maybe that was the you yesterday, but that's certainly not the you today. And if you gave up the first time you tried to stand up and walk, you'd still be crawling around on your hands and knees. You kept trying and you failed again, and then you failed better. And then one day you got the hang of it and you stood up, and you haven't quit since. Okay. We're surrounded by industries and professions based on criticism. We have food critics, art critics, movie critics, entertainment critics. I mean, everybody's got a job out there getting to be a critic. When you think about that, how sad is that? Just running around criticizing all the time? Yay, yay. Okay, but it limits. And on a lesser scale, but I'm guilty of it, and I laugh when I realized I was doing it. If you bang yourself and it makes a loud noise and it felt like you should have hurt yourself, you say ouch. And then you go, yeah, it didn't really hurt, but you said ouch anyways, because it might have hurt. It sounded like it could have hurt. It should have hurt. Well, it hurt the last time you did it, but this time when I whacked my elbow, it didn't hurt. But I said ouch just because often when I whack my elbow, it does hurt. We've all heard about archetypes, the hero's journey. Well, the hero brings with it its own set of limits. What if you were just the star in your movie and you're the one who's writing the script? You're the one with the hand on the joystick determining how it's going to play out and happen without limitation. Well, if you come with the limitation, you're probably still going to script some of that into what's going on. I did when I asked Caroline to rewrite the description of today's session. I said, I soften it with words like, what did I say it? Oh, you might find helpful. Well, that's me kind of seconding myself to an imposter syndrome, or, it's up to you whether you find it helpful or not. I know this stuff works. I've got years practicing it and doing it, and I wouldn't be foolish enough to stand here and talk into the Zoom camera if I thought I was going to be wasting time, yours or mine. So I'm officially going to rewrite that little limiting belief that was buried in the announcement for this session to I'm going to share helpful information, tools, and perspectives on limiting beliefs. A majority of our limiting beliefs are rooted in a lack of self-worth and deservingness. Not all, but a significant majority. These limiting beliefs that we have come from, I've grouped them based on what I've seen and observed from my clients. And they come from a number of sources. So first I'll go through the groups and then I'll tell you what I've observed. So we've got community. First community, it's family. We've got friends, we've got our peers, our friends, recreational groups. Then we have our culture. We're born into different cultures by virtue of where we're born on this planet. And as part of those cultures, we have politics, we have religion, we have media, we have education. They're all just a little bit different depending on what the culture has decided is best for itself. And then we have inheritance, and I'll call it ego-rational mind inheritance, but it's actually a genetic inheritance that comes along with your DNA. Now, the community that we have, that we're born to, they're very good at imprinting us with limiting beliefs. I remember hearing a mom once speak to a really enthusiastic child who'd just come home from school, and this child was bubbling over it, had all the news of the day, and mom went, "Oh, just be quiet," because she was busy with people at the dinner table. "Nobody wants to hear what you have to say." Wow. And how many times did that mom say that to that young child? And what was the imprint left behind that young child? I have nothing worthwhile to say. Nobody wants to hear it. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve to be heard. Now, I'm pushing the envelope a bit with the explanation, though the example sadly was true. But we get imprinted in a whole variety of ways. You can kind of almost even imprint yourself if you say, I can't do that. Well, keep it up, and you're right, you will not do that. So be careful. Now, imposition is another way we get limiting beliefs foisted upon us. That's politics, religion, media, education. They're very good about telling us what's right and wrong and who we have to be. We've seen all those images on the billboards. We see them on the advertisements that come on in the middle of our TV shows, before the movies, during the movies. We are bombarded by things from our culture, from our politics. And I wouldn't say we're bombarded by religion, but if we have a religious belief, it certainly comes with a strict set of rules on what is appropriate and best or right and correct for us to behave, think, say, and do. Education is pretty difficult to pass anything unless you said and did what the teacher wanted. Now, you probably guessed that there's a bit of a rebel lurking underneath this sweet demeanor. Well, I was pushed really heavily when I was finishing high school. By my parents, I had to go to university because that was a privilege that had not been afforded them when they were young. But I was young, and I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I thought, quite honestly, that I wanted to be a translator, but a guidance counselor, a well-intentioned guidance counselor, decided that that was way too high-stress a career and I should find something else to study that was less stressful. And she said, well, pick a subject that you're good at. Well, I was good at all my stuff. So I picked a subject that took me away from the community that I finished high school in, because I just wanted to stretch my wings and learn and grow. But it turned out that applied research chemistry wasn't who I really should have been, because, I mean, as much of an introvert and a shy person as I am, I was way too introverted to be a research chemist with my test tubes and beakers. So the next faculty I switched to was marketing. And I learned very quickly that if I turned in a paper that wasn't what the professor wanted to hear, I would get a lousy grade. And many of the papers that we handed in were a result of a team effort or a group effort. And one of them I remember very distinctly. I pushed hard, and the group finally gave in. I said, fine, we'll do it your way. And what I was pushing on was we didn't need to do some sort of a market analysis, because the point in time where we had received this work was beyond when the market analysis should have been done, and the marketing was going a different direction. We got our paper back, and I had a really lousy grade on it because our professor, he hung his hat on market analyses. It didn't matter what you did. If it didn't have a market analysis in it, you're going to get a really pukey grade. And I was ornery. I was stubborn, kind of like the horse that hasn't been broken yet. I took my paper above him to the dean of the faculty, and I said, here's the thing. Like, I'm sorry, but if you ask me to repeat, like a puppet, what has made you famous and successful, how is that going to help me in a field as novel and growing and diverse as marketing? But I discovered that the dean had his thing, and it was just simply a different thing from the professor. So they really wanted me to learn their limitations. What they didn't see them as limitations, but for me, they were limitations. And I couldn't do that. So I kind of skipped the last half of the year in my classes. I went and volunteered in a mentally handicapped workshop, a handicap for mentally handicapped, a workshop, let me get this right, a workshop for mentally handicapped adults. And I kept in touch. I wrote my papers, I handed in my exams, and I got a B+, because I understood what they wanted to hear. But, between you and me, it didn't mean I'd learned an awful lot about marketing. I'd learned how to be a really good repeater that, in my mind, were going to limit me on my go-forward path. And okay, so the third career, I got lucky, and I had a 28-year IT career. But it gave me a really strong left brain, because in that wonderful world of computers, it works or it doesn't work. It's like light on, light off, wax on, wax off from the, I can't remember the name of the movie, but we all watched it, and it replays like a bazillion times. Wax on, wax off. It builds the muscle, and it built my muscle of becoming critical and looking for what would be the sources of failure, either because the program didn't do what it was asked to do, or the user community didn't receive what it expected or needed to receive. Okay. So I had this practice of looking for fault. I still can criticize easily because I had a long time solving problems in the IT world, and I still do it in the energy medicine arena, because people don't come to me because things work. They come to me because something's not working, and I'm still looking for a problem to solve. But it's different. I don't choose to be critical. I choose to work from a place of love. So the more modern version of what Buddha spoke about was written by the person who gets the most credit for it. His name is Frank Outlaw. Watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. Now, one of my favorite things to do with many, and it's not all, but it's most kinds of limiting beliefs, is something which I call mirror work. What that means is you have to look yourself in the eye, in the mirror, and say something to yourself. Something like, and this is my favorite exercise, I want you all to do this exercise. I love you. I'm talking to myself. I really, really love you. Say it like you mean it. My thoughts and my actions all support this. Now, think about that. When was the last time you didn't treat yourself very nice? You cursed, you swore, you were grumpy. It's like, oh, you know better. Why did that work? Grumble, 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 swear, swear, swear. It's a simple little exercise, but the thing about looking yourself in the eye in the mirror is that you cannot lie to yourself. Because the minute you're lying, you get kind of a little squirmy, you get a little edgy and anxious. And if it's something that you wish was true, but maybe it's not, like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm kind of having problems loving myself right now because I'm feeling like a failure. I didn't measure up, I let somebody down, blah, 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 whatever the story is. That also limits you. That story was then, this is now, now is not then. But you can't lie to yourself. So the favorite set of limiting beliefs, and I will go through these. I'll go through what the replacement belief is when we're finished all of it. I will post a list of all the beliefs and the replacement belief into the chat so you can take a copy of it, take it away with you, and have your way with it, modify it, upgrade it, revise it, re-engineer it. Because you might have other things that feel good for you, but how many of you can look yourself in the mirror right now and say, I love you, meaning I love myself, and really mean it? Unconditionally love yourself with all the passion and enthusiasm that you can muster. I love me. Okay. But another one. Have you ever said, I hate myself? Probably. Hate's a pretty powerful word. You might not have meant hate, but you said hate. And the problem is that the subconscious hears and feels the vibration of that word hate. Can you look yourself in the mirror and say, I am worthy. I am unconditionally worthy. By the way, you were born unconditionally worthy. The world around us is almost contrived to make certain that we didn't figure that out. Do you believe that you deserve? You genuinely deserve, not it's my turn, but no, I deserve. I'm worthy, I deserve. Here's another, it's a short list of populars. I have just 4 more to go. I can receive and accept love easily. On the surface, who wouldn't be able to do that? But have you ever felt that there was something that you wanted from somebody that loved you and you didn't get it? And then you kind of, here's the thing. My example for myself was when I was little, I really wanted Mom a lot of times to just give me a hug or squeeze my arm or just something, a touch, a nice gentle pat my head. Didn't matter, but reach out and touch me. Mom wasn't a toucher. She wasn't a hugger. And so the little Emily, without an awful lot of worldly experience, decided, well, I guess maybe I'm not worthy of that hug. Maybe I don't deserve it. Oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be hugged. Maybe this isn't what we do. But when Emily grew up, she didn't recheck that. I didn't go looking. I didn't even know there was something to look for. That maybe I had written up a belief in my pursuit of something I really wanted and thought I needed, that wasn't how the world worked. And before you go, yeah, no, not me, it's, yeah, oh yeah, you too, every one of us. How do you feel about it's okay to be happy? All the time, every day. I'm worthy and deserving of happy. That does not preclude when something sad happens and, your dog dies, your loved one dies, things like that. But generally speaking, are you happy? Can you wake up in the morning and go, I love my life. I'm happy. I mean it. Can you forgive yourself? Doesn't matter for what, just generally speaking, for whatever topic. I forgive myself. I forgive me. I went to it was a little study group once, we were all getting introduced to craniosacral therapy, and we had to pick something from a bag that was passed around, and we had to introduce ourselves, and then we had to speak to that thing that was written on the piece of paper we picked out of the bag. And my thing was forgiveness. And I smiled. I still remember. I introduced myself and I said forgiveness. But what it said with forgiveness, it said, you know you have succeeded when you can no longer remember that which it is that you are forgiving. And the reason I laughed, because there was somebody very much who had been very much in my world and my mind for several years, who really needed my forgiveness, and I was working on it. But at that point, I was still very clear on what they needed to be forgiven for. Now, today, more than 30 years later, I remember who they are, but I don't remember all the details. I don't choose to. I don't want to. I came to understand, and I knew then, but I made the understanding of why they were mean to me more important than what they did to me and my reaction to it. I forgave them from a place of love, and also I was sad for them. I was sad that what was happening to them had caused them to behave so poorly. So, how many of you could genuinely say and mean it? Life is not a struggle. And if I phrase it positively, do you believe that life is a struggle? And some days it's still a yes answer. You'd have to give me a flat out no. Well, some days it's just hard. That's just true. That's the way life works. Now you're going to see a real pattern in how these new beliefs are constructed. And I'll let you know right now, when I use the word God, God really is meant to refer to Creator. But Creator is a bigger word. And Mother, Father, God, Creator, the one divine source of all that is, that's way too many words to fit into this spot. I've just unwittingly opened something on my screen that I'm trying to get rid of because it's hiding what I need to see and it won't go away. There we go. So just take God as universal mind, divine source, creator, whatever word you want, but it's a lot shorter and it fits in. So I love myself. The one to start working on in front of the mirror is, I love myself unconditionally because I am unconditionally worthy and deserving. Unconditionally deserving. Love has a priority that is of God. I have priorities that are of God. I love myself unconditionally. Now, I'll ask this question, and then later, if Caroline sees it, enough people to say yes, I'll just post the link. There's a wonderful YouTube done by Wayne Dyer on how we all have God or God energy within us. So it's time to start pulling on some of that. If you'd like to watch the YouTube, 1 or 2 yeses will cause Caroline to ask me to put the link in, and I'll paste it in a couple of moments. But I'll carry on with the I love myself. So I love myself. Okay, got it. Thank you. I saw the thumbs up. I love myself unconditionally because I'm unconditionally worthy and unconditionally deserving. Love has a priority that is of God. I have priorities that are of God. I love myself unconditionally. I hate myself. Well, the new belief sounds exactly like the last one. I love myself unconditionally because I'm unconditionally worthy and unconditionally deserving. Love has a priority that is of God. I have priorities that are of God. I love myself unconditionally. You'll notice there's a real theme that goes on in these, and I've used them for more than 15 years on all the clients that I work with, and they just work. I am worthy. I really have something popping up. I'm ignoring it. Good, I found the ignore button. I'm worthy? Well, I am unconditionally worthy. Worthiness has a priority that is of God. I have priorities that are of God. I am unconditionally worthy. You got it. Now here's the next one. And I want you to expand this one in all the ways that make you feel good. So I deserve. I unconditionally deserve, and this is why you get to go wild and crazy. I marked it with little green hearts in the text that I'm going to post. I unconditionally deserve limitless and abundant good things like health, relationships, and financial freedom. But like I say, add as many wonderful things as you can think of there, because I am unconditionally worthy. Deservingness has a priority that is of God. I have priorities that are of God. I am unconditionally deserving. I can receive and accept love easily. If you say no to that, if you feel a little twinge or you go, oh, yeah, not always, maybe not, well, then I can receive and accept love, unconditional love, self-love, and unconditional self-love easily because I'm unconditionally worthy and unconditionally deserving. Love has a priority that is of God. I have priorities that are of God. I receive and accept love, unconditional self-love, and self-love easily. It's okay to be happy. It is okay and right to be happy because I'm unconditionally worthy and unconditionally deserving. You're starting to see a theme going on here. Happiness has a priority that is of God. I have priorities that are of God. I am unconditionally happy. I can forgive myself. I can forgive myself because I am unconditionally worthy and unconditionally deserving. Forgiveness has a priority that is of God. I have priorities that are of God. I unconditionally forgive myself. The bottom line is we're generally just doing the best we know how. And every once in a while, it doesn't work. We do something we wish we hadn't. Well, suck it up, little camper. Forgive yourself. Move on. Fail better the next time, or just simply do better the next time. Life is a struggle. Life is an adventure filled with have fun, grace and ease, joy, awe, health, laughter, happiness, delight, unconditional self-love, self-compassion, self-forgiveness, forgiveness, compassion, love, worthiness, and deservingness. Life's adventure has a priority that is of God. I have priorities that are of God. Life flows easily. How does that resonate for folks? That's what I'll do right now, in that same way that I cleared everybody's energy before they came in. I'll replace, if any of you had problems with any of those limiting beliefs, what I will put in place right now, and it will last as long as a moment, is all of these new beliefs that I have just written. And now it's completely up to you to redesign them, deflect them, undo them, revise, embellish, and enhance them. But there we go. Oh, did it get cranky because it's too big. I tried to do a big post all at once. Does that work now? I'm sorry, I'm digressing. I have little things, there we go. That'll let me do that. So then I can do that. Yeah, got crabby again because it's too big a thing. Good, there we go. I have to do this in a couple of installments. And there's the last one. So take a copy or screenshot of any of those things if you think that they have value, but use them as a basis for some of these other limiting beliefs that you're going to find in yourself, because I look at limiting beliefs as this giant Rubik's Cube, and I just keep twisting it a little bit to see if I can get more colors to line up. So it's easy for me to love myself. It's easy for me to love other people. It's easy for me to forgive other people. It's easy for me to embrace a struggle. I can't do this. You start looking for where those sneaky little limiting beliefs live, and look where they have words like no, not never. I don't like that. I can't do that. I don't wanna. Ooh, that never works for me. Well, maybe yes, maybe yo. And while I'm kind of digressing a little bit, I'm just going to grab the link for the YouTube that is Wayne Dyer talking about God within, because I just found it, very timely and on point. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I did when I discovered it. To say your unlimiting beliefs, those are the new ones that make you unconditionally lovable, worthy, deserving, happy, joyful, abundant, prosperous, blah, blah, blah. If you say them in front of the mirror for 1 month, you will start to observe significant and dramatic positive changes take place in your world. As I said a little earlier when I first introduced mirror work, and it is my favorite mirror work because every once in a while, not so much anymore, but I found one back in April that just blew me apart. It was a very deeply buried limiting belief. And I shed the requisite number of tears that came along with it, and I kind of wandered around, happy that I had found it, but feeling quite eviscerated for the next few days as I saw the implications and the repercussions of how that belief, formed at a very early age in my life, had really been getting in my way over and over and over again. It was welded to the hamster wheel. And I went back to doing the I love you in front of the mirror again. So the I love you and say your name, because your subconscious knows who you are. And if you can say it out loud, if you can't say it out loud passionately, then whisper it passionately so as not to embarrass yourself or cause everybody who's living with you or overhearing you to think that you truly are a nutball. Your subconscious hears the vibration. It responds to the sound of your voice. And that's one of the key aspects or elements that you are trying to retrain with the new habit of how much you love yourself. So, I love you, Emily. I mean, I really, really love you. I promise, and promise is a key word. My every thought, word, and action show this. Why is promise a key word? Well, if I'm promising myself, making eye contact in the mirror, I'm sorry, but is now a good time to break a promise? Like, probably not. You don't want, you're not lying to yourself, and you don't want to be breaking promises. So stay with the agenda. I love me. I promise that all my thoughts, my words, and my actions are going to be a tribute to how much I really, really love me. Okay. If I'm sounding a bit like a broken record, well, I hope not, but it's because it really is that important. We have these limiting beliefs. They're formed when we're very young, and we have no life or world experience. They're formed when needs that we have, things that would make us better or happier, or we just think it would be the right thing, when we can't get them, either because somebody's not listening, we can't make ourselves heard, or because making ourselves heard would put us at risk. If you're the child of an alcoholic parent, letting them know what you need might not always be a good idea, because they might be an abusive parent. They might have been there might be an abusive spouse. There might be an abusive boyfriend. I worked, believe it or not, for one of the oil and gas majors in Calgary, for one of the most emotionally abusive managers that you could ever imagine. We don't believe these things happen in the world around us, but they've happened for legitimate reasons and for reasons that we just imagined, because we imagined something and then we never checked back to find out if it was really that way. We invented it and we rehearsed it and we made it our truth, but it's not. But it takes a little bit of rehearsal to undo some of those beliefs. Mirror work is one of the very simplest ways to start working with it. And anybody who says you can break a habit in 21 days, they're exceptionally optimistic. My answer to that would be sometimes, not generally. And maybe not even within 30 days, but you're going to be rocking it so much in 30 days that you just might feel inspired to add more things to say as mirror work. Just whenever you happen to see yourself in front of the mirror, which happens, I'm going to guess 2 or 3 times a day minimum, because you got to make your hair, you got to fix the jewelry, you got to do the shaving, whatever it is, you do it in front of a mirror. It will take a couple of extra moments to make eye contact with yourself and affirm how really wonderful and amazing you are. You've forgotten that, and it's time to unlearn it. The sky is not the limit. Your mind is. The words that you speak are, and the actions that come from your thoughts and your words confirm that. One of those things that live in that woo-woo world in which I live is learning to unlearn is the highest form of learning. I still study with a Tibetan Lama. One of the first books that he gave me was Undoing Your Knots. And it wasn't K-N-O-T-S, it was N-O-T-S, because I had this nasty little habit of always answering with a knot. How are you today? Well, not bad. How's the food? Not bad. Is it too hot? No, not too hot. But how is it? He was just on and Emily, how are you? You're a very articulate person. You don't have to just not anything. And it took me a while to learn how to answer that question, any question, straightforward. And I still hear sometimes, it's my other little voice in the back of my head going, naughty, naughty, stop knotting things. And it became a little bit of a giggle and a joke. But I now hear it with people around me. They knot. They second themselves. They don't have the courage to say what they think or they feel, maybe even what they know. Not bad. Oh, so. We just kind of shuffle it around. We scoop it under the rug. You need to remember to remember. It's going to take practice and time to change many, if not all, of your limiting beliefs. If you remember to remember that those negatives that come from your mouth are immediate limitations, you're on the right path. And if you make this a mindful practice for life, the positives will serve you so very well, because that habit will become a significantly improved character over the one which was negative. I've gone a little later than I thought or expected, but there's one final thing. Your change begins with noticing. If you notice that, oh, look what I just said. Look what oh my gosh, notice it. Little by little, you're going to start interrupting what you noticed. I'm not going to say that. Okay, that's great. And there's one thing, a very Buddhist teaching, but it's a very beautiful teaching. Everything is easy to be positive if you put a smile on your heart, if you live the hours of your day with a smile on your heart. How could it not be a good day? How could it be anything other than the best day? Because every day is your opportunity for a good day.
Anna had a question in the chat. She She said she's thanking you a lot for everything, but she's feel like she's losing her mind because she feels such a strong pull to become an energy healer, but she's not intuitive and very left-brained. So she works also in marketing, which feels like a completely different world. And she asked if you could help her understand if she's truly capable or if she's delusional.
Well, I think we could all probably give Anna a high five and say, "You are not delusional. Not at all." Put that hand up, slap it. I had somebody else. You're not delusional. I had when I was ranting on my mountaintop about I don't want to be a computer person anymore. What am I going to do when I grow up? The universe, in its infinite wisdom, had me in a high-speed collision with a bull moose. And if any of you don't know what a bull moose is, it's a pretty large animal with a rack of antlers, and it weighs in, I don't know, anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 pounds. And I collided with this guy driving my dad's little Geo Metro convertible, a very tiny little sports car, about twice the size of your coffee table. And he came through the windshield, he rolled, and I was injured, and he died. But in order to help me with my recovery, one of the practitioners that I was directed to see was a craniosacral therapist, a marvelous woman who said, I've been doing cranial now, and she was one of the very first in Calgary, Alberta, for more than 15 years, and it's taken me 15 years to develop the intuitive abilities to hear and feel and sense that pulse that comes from the cerebral spinal fluid that cushions our brain and our spinal column. Okay, so that was one example of a person who was bound and determined she was going to be an energy healer in craniosacral therapy, and she just stayed with it. Consistency is the key. Now, I believe that we're all born with a full set of intuitive gifts and abilities. Most of us are born to a culture or a family that teaches us out of them because they don't know anything about it. I was absolutely not was. I remain the black sheep of the family. The closest anybody can cite is I had a great aunt who used to read tea leaves. Well, Auntie Nettie, I remember my Auntie Nettie. I love you, but I could run circles around you with what I've learned to do. With consistent practice, you can learn to revive your intuitive abilities in any manner that you feel drawn to. One of the simplest and gentlest places you might start, and I didn't stay where I started, so while I can still do craniosacral therapy, I haven't had a massage table in my office for a very large number of years. Start with reflexology. It's an easy, simple place to begin. Learn to dose, and maybe that's a question. Would you like me to teach you about dosing on one of these sessions? I'll ask Caroline if she could see if there's any yes answers. One of the modalities I studied was the dowsing modality. And while I was born with a really strong intuitive ability, which I called clairsentience last week, it's still called that this week. Knowing by feeling, when I learned to dose, and it just happened almost immediately. I was in this class and the person was telling us how to do it, and I was sitting there, and I held up my pendulum and it just went like that, yes, back and forth. And if I asked my pendulum to go no, like I'm shaking my head no, it just went no. And if I said turn in a clockwise circle, it just goes in a clockwise circle. Okay, well, it's a kinesiology response to a lot of little muscles moving in your arm to get that pendulum. Now, don't judge yourself because I've used this pendulum now for about 23 years. I'm pretty good at most things dosing, but I seem to have an ability to get the pendulum to move on that very first day. I remember people in a 3-day course who couldn't get their pendulum to move by the end of the 3-day course, but subsequently showed up in the level 2 course. They continued to practice and stay with it. If you send me a question or a link in the response to this session that I could reply to by email, I will send you a bunch of ideas. But absolutely, stay with it, but consistent practice and rehearsal. One of my favorite things to do is rock stacking. Get 3 rocks. I don't know, call this a large one, a medium one, and a small one, and stack them one on top of the other. And don't start by assuming that the medium one goes on the big one and the little one goes on the medium one. They might go totally, you've got to feel the energy in those rocks to stack them. Maybe it's a children's game, but it's a way to start feeling energy. Be consistent with what you practice. And it's simply going to be about remembering, because you have unlearned your intuitive abilities through lack of practice. Okay, probably too long an answer. I don't know. Did that help, Anna? And I can't see you. I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
Please, you're not a nutball. You're not delusional. But we're surrounded by people who don't, if they don't have intuitive abilities, they don't give you credibility for wanting to go that route. My family has no problem asking me for help when they need it, but then they close the door the moment the help has been given because they don't know what to do with me. And generally the question is, are you going to read my mind? And I'm thinking the answer is, why would I want to? But the real answer is they don't have permission. Have some fun with it. But I thought, well, I had a bunch of people here. Maybe there's something I hadn't mentioned that they wanted to float around as an idea.
So Cardalyn has a question.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And I already can, maybe this is a limiting belief too, but if I do the mirror work, I am aware that some of the prompts that I will read will just bump back, like you said, when it doesn't feel right, it gives you a feeling. Is the practice continuing it even though there are the hard feelings? So just being, I'm also getting trained in mindfulness, so I might create the space to see those feelings. But I just wanted to check if even though they feel like I'm lying to myself, should I just keep on with the practice?
Yes. So you could soften it a little by saying, I really, really want to continue doing this exercise. So here we go. I love you. I really, really love you. You need to do this at least twice a day, but by the way, more is better. Sometimes, like after this last little nugget that I discovered in April, I would look in the mirror and I could feel the pushback. I could feel the tears welling up. Take a deep breath, mop through the tears, but talk through the tears. Keep it going, say it and do it. Just do it day in, day out, consistently. And say it with a gentility that speaks to the love that you feel for yourself. Treat yourself as kindly as you would a stranger. It's a new practice, and it's a really wonderful practice to learn how to love yourself. We're not taught that. My mom didn't teach me that. She wasn't taught that. Religions often teach us that's one of the 7 or 9 sins. I don't even remember how many sins there are. Probably as many as you want there to be. Self-love isn't going to turn you into an egomaniac. It's going to make you kinder and gentler with yourself, which immediately parlays out to how you are with others. Discover who you are as a beloved. And if it helps you a little bit to why do I love me, start journaling all of those characteristics about you that are lovable. And maybe you will feel less like you're lying because you know you're kind, you're sweet, you're helpful, you're compassionate, you're intelligent. I mean, these kinds of things, the things that are the correct characteristics for you, that will help you become a lot less of a liar when you say, I love me. And if you have to say, I love that I am kind. I love that I'm caring. I love that I'm helpful. I love that I give a damn when somebody is in pain, or however it works for you to phrase it. You say, this is some of the many reasons I love you. And it's almost like you're building it up to convince yourself. But if all of those things that form a foundation or a platform are for you true, you're not going to feel such a pushback when you say, I love you, I really, really love you, because you just listed the ways and the reasons. It starts to ease that journey.
Thank you. And it really struck. Yeah, definitely. I took note too, and it really struck a chord when you said discover the beloved, because my second name Jana actually means beloved, which I don't use. So yeah, thank you for that.
Well, I have a body of work I created called Journey to the Beloved, which is, it can be about how you want to find your companion, who is ideally your beloved mate in this life. But it can also be something as simple as the journey to discovering who you are as a beloved. So you don't have to be having to find a partner or a companion. It can be about learning about yourself. And I could say a whole lot of stuff on this. I don't know. Do I have a couple more minutes? I'll take a couple more minutes. In my early 30s, out of the blue, with no prior illness or condition, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I was told I was on the fast track to quadriplegia, hearing and vision impairment. They were wrong. 3 years later, I was told that my neurologist didn't want to see me anymore because nothing about my wellness conformed to their expectations. Wow, talk about putting a pretty heavy set of limiting beliefs on top of me. But I wasn't okay. So, yeah, I was walking, I was doing all the things they said I would never do again, but I didn't feel okay in myself. And I went to, somebody was having I think a tarot card reading or something like that at somebody's home. And one of the women, numerology is what it was. And she said, oh, well, you need to go to AA. And I was shocked. It's like, wow, like on a good day, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't drink. I have a little wine sometimes, but why would you send me to AA? And she just looked at me and said, oh, that's where you learn to get your life back. Okay. And the girlfriend who'd invited me, who I didn't know was an alcoholic, said, yeah, if you want, every group will be different. You should come with me. Check it out. So I went. And I went through the entire 12-step program. I never mentioned the phrase MS, and I never mentioned the word alcoholic. But I spoke at every one of their meetings. And by the end of that 12 steps, and I don't know which step I started on, or was somewhere in the middle, I knew who I was again, because what I had learned was that I had redefined my measuring sticks of wellness to conform to what all of my doctors said I should be, but I wasn't. And then I spent like the next 10 years trying to figure out, okay, I know what I did that fixed me. What was it? And so I have also put that into work that I do for my clients, because I came to understand more about who I was. And before I met the person that I'm now married to, I was really tired of the singles dating scene. It was like, seriously, maybe I'm not supposed to be married in this lifetime. And I read something that said, you cannot be for another until you know how to be for yourself. Who are you as the beloved? If you're looking for your beloved, who are you as a beloved for them? That seemed to make perfectly good sense to me. So I proceeded to do that work as well. So I hope that makes you feel a little easier in the next stages of your journey. You are a beloved for all of us. Thank you. Okay, we're on a roll, folks. Bring them on. What's the next question?
Thank you so much. Can you please plug your book? I know you wrote a book, but I would love to get a link or something, or just talk to you about a little bit.
Well, I will
post it later.
Okay, I'll find a way to put up the link. What happened was, yeah, my website went AWOL. The website host went AWOL last week, so my website is gone. One of my clients gifted me a whole new site, so I'm in the process of trying to bring up that site, and I will see what the easiest way is to give you a link. If the ebook is okay, the book that I sent to the printer to print, if that's okay.
Well, we can
I'll
also purchase.
I'll find a way to put
if it's for sale somewhere. Yes,
it's for sale, but you know what happens? I get crabby. I'd rather give it to you than pay everybody else, honestly, because I get $2.99 for every book that I sell on Amazon. And I think the book is currently selling for about $16. I get $2.99 of that. So I would rather give you the book and have you gift the Consciousness Hub that. And I will post that link, I guess, with Caroline's help. The book is called The In Club: Consciously Evolving Your Intuition. And I was just turning around to see if I could put my hands on it in my bookcase right now. Not super rapidly. It would take me a couple of moments. But thank you very much for asking. The book is called The In Club, and it's all about your intuition. And I forgot your name, but the woman who thought she was delusional. The In Club contains a whole lot of information on how you can start to consciously develop your intuitive abilities. So I guess we have a thing going on, and Caroline she'll figure out how to post that. Okay? Thank you very much for asking. Okay, so on the topic of limiting beliefs then, there's a couple of possibilities. I could do a session just on limiting beliefs. It's going to be a level 2 session that have to do with self-worth and self-love. And I will teach a toning technique for how to help you with some of those really sticky, deeply rooted techniques. Or I can do some different stuff with limiting beliefs on that ever popular topic of money and abundance. Now, if you'd like both of those, then we'll just do, I guess that would be 3. We'd do dowsing, we'd do self-love and worth with a toning technique, and we'll do abundance and money, because that seems to be kind of right here in everybody's radar and crosshairs. Is there anything else that people would like to know about?
So we can just schedule them one after the other. I think it's going to be something exciting to look forward to in the next coming weeks.